Good boy, Tucker.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome.
Work smarter where you want.
Consistency is key.
And remember, if it's not in Redtail, it never happened.
This is learning at its most fun.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us for session 4, the very last session of the summer series. Don't worry if you missed any of the sessions. We're going to be doing it 4 more times over the course of the summer, but this is going to be the conclusion for this set of the summer series. Just to get things started, just wanted to start off with the agenda for today. So we're going to get started right now. Our first break is going to be happening at 1:10 Pacific Standard Time. We're going to be taking a 10-minute break, and then we should have you all done and out of here by 2 p.m. Pacific time. So for you on the East Coast, I know 5 o'clock, you're ready to head home. We were shooting to have you out of here before that time. Just a couple of notes on this. The sessions are going to be recorded today. So if you need to step away, if you need to leave early, you're going to have a recording that's going to be made available to you. Also, all of the information we're covering is going to be available to you via PDF. Rick has posted a link for us in the chat here, so you might have to scroll up a little bit to grab it. But there is a link to download a PDF file that's going to cover most of the content that we're covering today. So to introduce ourselves as presenters, my name is Austin Johnson. I am the apostle of automation. I'm obsessed with efficiency. There's a way to make it automatic. I love it. We're going to be covering some automations today, so very, very excited about that. Been a trainer here for about 2 years.
I'm Haley Mandrip. I'm Empress of Efficiency. I've started on the support team almost 7 years ago at Redtail, and really excited to be here. And then I wanted to also introduce our pups who go with us wherever we go to work every day, everywhere. On the left, we've got Daisy, that's Austin's pup. And then we've got Leo in the middle and Malcolm, which are my 2 mutts, a golden retriever and a mutt. So they'll be in our examples for today. So you'll see them around.
Daisy's taking a nap now, but I'm not sure. Is Leo napping as well?
I gave him some peanut butter, so if you hear licking, sorry.
All right, so for those of you that joined us yesterday, you're familiar with the format. Just to recap, or if we have any new attendees, we're going to be using a variety of different ways to collaborate and interact with you today. So the first of which is the Q&A box. This is for you to ask us trainers questions about Redtail CRM. So we've invited Catherine and Curtis, fresh from session number 3, to come in and help cover some of the questions that you might have regarding Redtail CRM. So again, questions, Q&A box. We also have the chat option. This is for you to interact with Haley and I as we are interacting in the presentation. So we might ask you a question and direct you to the questions, the chat options to give us an answer. Or if you are going to be able to select from available topics, you can go ahead and choose or tell us the topic that you'd like to cover next. The other way we interact is with polls. Polls are going to show up on your screen. We'll do a sample in just a second so you get familiar with that. And then lastly, we have social media. So if you're active on social media, we'd love to connect with you. We had a couple of you yesterday share pictures of your dogs. Feel free to just go ahead and use the hashtag Redtail Summer Series and hashtag Strategy Challenge, so that way we can see them. And then don't also forget to @Redtail CRM.
I know I've said it before and I'll say it again. I consider it a personal failing if after a presentation, nobody sent me a picture of their dog. So please don't let me fail today. Send us a picture of your dog.
All right, everybody, without further ado, let's go ahead and have some fun. We're going to share some new information with you and how you can use Redtail to enhance your office. Remember, you're competing for a score. So if you're getting answers right, make sure that you're recording down your score. We work on the honor system here, so be honest, and we'll ask you about your scores at the end. So here's how it goes. First, we're going to pick a topic in the chat. Then a poll question is going to go ahead and show up. So let's go ahead and use the sample now. So the question for the sample poll today is, where is Redtail located? Is it A, Sacramento, California, B, Chandler, Arizona, C, Atlanta, Georgia, or D, all of the above? So I'll go ahead and give everybody about 3 more seconds to go ahead and answer that poll. If you didn't see a poll, be sure to check around your screen. It might be hidden behind another window. You might also check your Windows bar at the bottom to make sure it isn't being minimized. So Looks like I see lots of answers coming into the polls. So that is good news. Looks like most of us are being able to see it. Let's go ahead and end the poll. All right. If you answered D, all of the above, you are correct. Redtail has 3 offices. We are across 3 time zones, being Mountain Standard Time, Pacific Standard Time, and Eastern Standard Time, across 3 offices. Haley and I are coming to you live from our Sacramento office, but there's over 115 of us, and we're spread out all across the country supporting you and your business. Okay. So no points for this one, but if you did get the points who are correct, then you would go ahead and write down your score for that particular question. After that, Haley and I are going to present a recommendation, which will be followed by an example on how you can use Redtail CRM to implement that recommendation. All right, so let's go to the game board. And you guys know the drill by now. Go ahead and let us know what question you'd like to cover first.
All right, it looks like we had someone typing before we were even at the game board. So good job there, Heidi. We're gonna go to client events for 300.
All right, client events for 300. There we go. All right, so the question is, according to the Harvard Business Review, the average American professional spends how much of their day reading and answering emails? So think about your day. If you had to break it out into a pie chart, how much time do you think that you spend doing emails, and how do you think that translates to the average American professional? Okay, so I'll give you about 3 more seconds to throw your answers in there. 3, 2, 1. All right, and looks like 50% of you said D, the correct answer, 28%. 28% of the average American professional day is spent sending and replying to emails. Imagine that. So with that said, what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to make sure that we're sending our emails quickly. And how might we do that in Redtail CRM? By using email templates. So when we have an event and we're sending out invitations or confirming RSVPs, we're going to make sure that we were using a template, because that's going to make sending out emails so much faster than having to type out individual emails to each person that might be replying or each person that we're going to be inviting to a particular event.
If you joined us for the earlier session, Curtis and Catherine covered broadcast emails or email templates. These can be used to send in bulk or individually. And like Austin said, they can be invitations or reminders, RSVP confirmations. For me, they just help set a template or a standard format for your correspondences from the office. So you can set a common theme to them, a common setup to all of that correspondence, and have everyone sending the same messaging. So not one client service associate sending one type of verbiage for maybe an onboarding email or something like that, or in this case, an event template. You're sending very standard messaging to all of your clients, and then everyone can see what everyone's sending too. So you're all on that same page when a question comes back. So these are just some ideas on templates that you can use for events. And one other cool thing about these events is a lot of times you have to send your correspondences through compliance first, right? Well, you can create your email as a template, send it to compliance, and then you already have it all structured and set up once they approve it. Or if they recommend some changes, it's very easy to go in and change it. You don't have to rebuild the whole email from scratch.
Yeah. So how do we do that in Redtail CRM? Is we're going to go to our name in the top right-hand corner. We're going to open up the drop down for manage your account. And then under the manage template section is the email templates. And that's where we'll go to build the email template. And that way, when we're ready to go ahead and send out either a broadcast email or an individual email to a contact in our database, it's going to ask us which template do we want to select. We just choose from the drop down and everything will be pre-filled.
All right, we've done our first question. So go ahead and let us know where you'd like to go next. I'm seeing contact cleanup for 200. Contact cleanup 200. I like the variety of seeing where everyone wants to go. It's all very different and across the board.
All right, we're talking about the decay of customer data. So according to informatica.com, what is the rate of decay for customer data per year? Is it A, 10%, B, 30%, C, 50%, or D, 70%? Give you about 3 more seconds to go ahead and enter in your answer. 3, 2, 1. If you said B, 30%, that is the correct answer. Your data decays at a rate of 30% per year. Kind of hard to think about, right? If you think about the last time you might have done your cleanup on your data, or the last time you entered new data into your database, that each year that data has become more incorrect at a rate of about 30%. And so how do we combat against this? The idea here is that we have 3 recommendations. Is we want to make sure that you have clean data, but that cleanness is kind of up to your interpretation. It does not necessarily mean the same thing for every office. And so what we suggest doing is have a meeting with your team and determine what are the most important fields that need to be populated in Redtail and that need routine maintenance. Okay. You should also be measuring where the database information is compared to the new standard. So look at, once you've developed the standard, look backwards, see where are we at and where do we want to be, and then implement a process for you to get from where you're at to where you want to be.
So within Redtail, a great way to look for dirty data, the dirtiest of data is missing data. So here we have a sample search on looking for missing email addresses. Data decay is hard to identify, right? That's what Austin's pinpointing with our question here. 30% of data decay is hard to pinpoint, but a very good starting point is finding what's missing. And this top search is a very common search that we hear about all the time. Can I search for anyone who's missing an email address? But when we're talking about data and we're talking about a CRM, there's a lot of data in the CRM. There's a lot of contacts in there, and not all of them need email addresses. So as opposed to searching for email addresses empty, where I might get businesses or contacts that I really don't care if they're missing an email address, or it would not be considered bad data if they were missing an email address, we want to look for specifically the bottom search, and that's for contact status equal to active client and email address is empty. So you can search for that and then bring up anyone who's missing an email address.
Okay, you got that one right. Be sure to mark down 200 points for yourself, and let's see where we're going next.
I love it. Valerie's coming in, prospecting for 500. Let's go for a 500-point question down here. Prospecting for 500. So on our 500-point questions, we don't have a poll for those. We actually want to hear from you in the chat.
So go ahead and let us know, how is your office continuing to prospect during the current pandemic? And one answer equals 500 points. So if you answer the question, give yourself 500 points. Let's see what your offices are doing to keep up with prospecting during these unusual times.
Dave Ramsey leads, email messages, word of mouth, weekly email touches. Oh my gosh, so many answers. Online seminars, Zoom. Zoom's big. We're using Zoom.
Yeah, social media, I see that one as well. It's actually, that's actually very effective because we're spending more time on social media than ever before because we're so socially disconnected from all of our friends. And so I would say social media ads is a great way to continue to prospect during the pandemic.
So it's very interesting in this time. Curtis touched on it in the earlier session. We're feeling more alone, right? We are literally socially distanced. We can't really interact as much as we used to. So if you're not prospecting because you feel like maybe it's not an appropriate time, consider prospecting in a different way than before, because people are looking for that human connection. And actually a lot of people are looking for financial advising right now. So how do we start to automate, Mr. Apostle of Automation, how do we automate our prospecting process?
Absolutely. So what we want to do is as soon as that new prospect hits our CRM, we want to make sure that we are setting ourselves up with a cadence so that we're being strategic in how we're following up with that person. And so what I like to use is what's called a prospecting workflow. Basically what that does is it sets it up so that way when that prospect, we make that first initial phone call, 3 days later, it's letting me know, hey, I got to make that second phone call. And then 3 days after that, I'm sending an email and making another phone call. And then maybe even a couple times after that, making routine touches, making sure that you're staying in front of the client. So that way that lead isn't going stale.
So we're systematizing, we're taking everything off our employees' plate. They don't have to remember when we get a prospect to do these 48 things. They just have to remember, change their status to prospect. The workflow guides you through the rest. And then when maybe they decide to go ahead and have that discovery meeting, another automation can link a workflow that guides you through the preparation and follow up from that discovery meeting. And depending on, in our example here, this is an appointment or a phone call, you might have a Zoom option that links a different workflow on how you prepare differently for a Zoom discovery meeting or an online discovery meeting. So this is one of those fun ones we get to see in action.
All right, let's go ahead and head over to the CRM and let's take a look on what that might look like inside Redtail CRM.
So we're going to add a prospect, and one of my favorite things to do when I'm contacting prospects is I really like to market to country artists. So we're going to add Tim McGraw as a prospect here today. When adding a new contact, I went to the quick add and I went to contacts and individual, because he's his own person, he's a person. And then I'm going to type in his name. Now, just for the sake of time and not having to type in front of so many people on this webinar, because I do it terribly, I'm just going to put his first and last name and go down to contact details. This is where that CRM information is. And just by adding the status of prospect and nothing else, I've only done a first, a last name, and status of prospect. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom and save the contact. Only by doing that, I have an automation set up in this database that links a workflow to Mr. Tim McGraw's contact record. And now I automatically have actions or tasks that are due for Tim. And all I did was put in 3 pieces of information.
Pretty sweet, right? That's why I love automations. So that I got to make that first phone call, and then my client services team is going to go ahead and follow up with an email. And just like that, it's super seamless and nothing falls through the cracks.
And both the workflow template and the automation template are in your follow-up PDF. So if you're looking for that information, it's in the follow-up PDF. You're getting everything that we show you today. That was our first 500. So give yourself 500 points if you participated in the chat. All right, it looks
back to the game board. Let's see where we're headed next.
Looks like we're going to go to RMDs and rep codes for 100.
RMDs. All right, so we want to know how many advisors are currently active users in your Redtail CRM. So how many advisors are using your Redtail CRM? This is just going to be a fun kind of survey type question. So if you went ahead and participate, go ahead and give yourself 100 points. I'm going to give you about 3 more seconds to put in your answer. 3, 2, 1. All right. So it looks like that sweet spot was right between 2 and 3 advisors. We got a couple of solo advisor offices with about 30%. And then we even have some larger office, 15 or so, where you have over 10 advisors. And so for that demographic, this is something you're definitely going to pay attention to, because once you get past that 2 advisor mark, this is where multiple rep codes start to kind of come into play. So let's talk about the recommendation for how we might do this inside Redtail CRM. So when we're dealing with multiple advisors or multiple advisors and their rep codes, we're going to want to use user-defined fields. Join us for session 3. Curtis and Catherine went through what user-defined fields are and how to add them. One thing that you should know is that you can not only do user-defined fields on the contact level, but you can actually add them to individual accounts. So if there is a joint account that the advisors both manage, you can go ahead and use the user-defined fields for accounts to signify that inside the account. This also will allow for you to do reporting on the account level. There is a report under the user-defined field report section called the account user-defined field reports that you can go ahead and run reports based off of that rep code. Okay, so you're going to want to use a mix of both. That's something I forgot to mention, is you don't want to just put the rep code in as the user-defined field. You also want to make sure that you're including your servicing advisors. So For all the advisors in your office, make sure you're going to your name, manage your account, and then opening up manage database lists. So that way you can enter in all the different servicing and writing advisors. If you joined us yesterday, we talked a little bit about how you might use both of those. But we want to make sure that we're signifying both the servicing advisor for who's going to be servicing the client and then adding the rep code in as a user-defined field.
So I've worked with offices of all sizes as we do individual trainings with our Redtail clients. And this process works if you have 1 or 2 advisors and you're just using servicing and writing advisor, or if you have 25 or more advisors and you have so many shared rep codes that there's over 500 rep codes, because you want to keep track of different pieces of information for different reasons. Maybe your servicing advisor is the person that answers the call when the client calls, and the writing advisor collects the commission. Whatever it is, the rep code can be tracked on either the account or the contact level, just like Austin said. All right, you guys know the drill by now. Where would you like to go next? Go ahead and let us know in the chat. And I do want to mention the PDF is the same for all 4 courses. I know I made it sound like it might be a different PDF just a second ago. It's the same PDF for all 4 courses, and it has all the content that we are covering today, that we covered yesterday, and that Curtis and Catherine covered yesterday morning and this morning. All right, it looks like we're going to do client loyalty for 300. Our first time into client loyalty. I love client loyalty. This is one of my favorite topics.
All right, this one's a bit of a tough one. So give us your best guess. According to the Knott's 2016 Real Wedding Surveys, what are the 2 most popular months for weddings? Is it spring weddings in March and April? How about a summer wedding in May, June? Or are we looking more towards the fall with July, August, or September, October? Give it your best guess. I'll give you 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. We're going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results. If you said the answer was D, September, October, those fall weddings are actually the most popular. Fun fact for you. And about 20% of you got that right. So go ahead and mark yourself down for 300 points. And let's talk about the recommendation for why we bring this point up.
I got that one wrong too, just for the record.
So a great way for you to instill client loyalty is with marital anniversaries. So Redtail has a reminder report in there that you can go to the contact details section and record the marital anniversary for your client. This not only makes your client more loyal, but also their spouse to you. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about the wealth transfer and how it's important to make sure that we're managing the household as a whole, because we don't know if assets are going to be transferring anytime soon. So a great way to do that and to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone is you can use marital anniversaries. And so we recommend maybe sending out like a card. You can use broadcast email or even mail merge inside Redtail CRM to do that. Some gift ideas would be things like flowers, or someone presented the idea of ice cream, sending them ice cream. I thought that was a great idea yesterday. A gift card to their favorite restaurant. So these are just a couple of ideas on how you might celebrate your client's marital anniversary as a way to instill more client loyalty.
Part of what we support you in doing at Redtail is not only the database management, but getting creative with that client management. So like Austin said, it doesn't have to be a card. Think about ways that you can acknowledge your anniversaries that aren't typical and that make it really a special relationship between you and your client. So one of my favorite suggestions from a client was to send a reminder to spouses 2 to 3 weeks before your anniversary or their anniversary, so that they can go shopping for it. Because I know for me, I wake up sometimes on my anniversary and I'm like, oh no, I don't have a present for him. He's getting a gift card. Uh-oh.
So there's 2 ways to track this inside Redtail CRM. The first is on your today page as part of your big data icons across the top. The second one is called reminders. You can set the filter option in there to show your marital anniversaries. It shows, like we see there, for the 41st wedding anniversary for Victor and Nora Fries. The other way to do it is head to the reports tab and then open up the reminder report, which has a report specific to wedding anniversaries. Here we can go ahead and set the filter as far out as we need to, or as close as we need to be able to see how quickly these wedding anniversaries are approaching. So if you like Haley's tactic of reminding the spouse 2 to 3 weeks prior to the anniversary, you can use the wedding reports to set that filter out and remind them.
Back to the game board we go. Where would you like to go? I saw 2 in a row for onboarding 400. Our first time into onboarding and our last category to enter. So onboarding 400.
All right, so this one is going to be kind of like a survey type. We just want to know, does your office have a client onboarding checklist? There's so many moving pieces that go into a client onboarding process. And so is your office, do they have a systematic way of doing that, typically with a checklist? So let's give you about 3 more seconds to go ahead and enter in the question. 3, 2, 1. If you want to answer, give yourself 400 points. Let's look at the results. Oh, we're pretty close there. So the majority of you do, but there is a good amount of you that do not. And so, like I said, there's lots of moving parts in the onboarding process. And so you're going to want a systematic way to go ahead and track that. And so how can we do that? We can do that by using a client onboarding workflow. And so here is an example of one that a Redtail trainer recommends. Like I said, you're going to have this PDF available to you, so you can go ahead and use this as sort of your basis or your foundation, and then customize it to whatever onboarding processes that you have. But one thing that we always recommend including is entering their contact data. So giving yourself a list of important items that you want to go ahead and enter in to that person's contact record when you're adding them into Redtail CRM.
Any of those big lists that you keep track of in your brain currently, or right now, maybe a Word document or a PDF or some kind of procedure manual on your server potentially, that can be converted to something dynamic like this, like a workflow in the system. So like Austin said, the workflow is going to guide you through step by step how to prepare for that client being onboarded, because you're setting the tone for your relationship with that client. So really make sure that the workflow reflects the experience that you want that client to have. So here's an example of what it looks like in the system. And that's it for that question. If you got that question right or answered yes, or even if you answered no, go ahead and give yourself the points for it. And think about adding an onboarding workflow or taking ours and adapting it to your own office. All right, another one came in 2 in a row for onboarding 200. And just a reminder, the chat is only to us. So you may not see the chat from other participants, but keep chatting to us and I am seeing your responses. So onboarding 200 is where we're going. Oh, look at that, Austin. It's a make it a double.
Everybody. Haley,
Cheers.
Cheers. Let's make it a double, everybody. All right, this one's worth double the points. So we're at 200. So this is going to be a 400-point question instead. It's a tough one. You're going to have to earn it on this one. According to the Fidelity Clearing and Custody Solutions, advisory firms should start every onboarding process with A, recording the client's preferred method of communication, B, receiving digital signatures, C, setting the next meeting, or D, beginning the ACAT process. So 3 seconds to go ahead and think about that one and enter in your answer. 3, 2, 1. All right, pulse closing. Let's see how we did. So if you answered A, recording the client's preferred method of communication, you got that one right. So the reason why Fidelity and Clearing Custody Solutions recommends this is because there's so many interactions that are going to be happening at that first initial onboarding phase. You want to make sure that you're communicating in the most effective way possible. And that all starts with asking the client the question of, how would you prefer that I communicate with you? We're all very different. So some of us, we live on our phones and we love texting, and some of us are a little bit more old-fashioned. We like snail mail in the letters, or even somewhere in the middle, like a traditional phone call. Make sure that you're asking your clients, how would you prefer that I communicate with you? So that way you have the most effective communication in the onboarding process. And so how do we use Redtail CRM to do this? Well, when you add their address, their phone number, their email address, it's all going to be added as primary. From there, we can then decide which of these is going to be the preferred method. So after we have the addresses and the phone numbers and the emails and added, now we can go ahead and indicate which of those three options is going to be the preferred method. And it's going to go ahead and bold it for us on the contact card. So that way we know when we pull up that person's record, that's how we should be communicating with them.
There's also ways to work around clients not having an email address. So maybe you have some clients who don't like the oversight of email, or the potential, they don't like the technology of having an email, or maybe they're older and don't have email addresses just out of choice. You can add a keyword for no email to indicate that it's not a mistake that they don't have an email address on their contact record. So everyone in your office would be trained on that, to look for an email address. If there's no email, they should have that keyword no email or do not email, which means that they just don't have one or don't prefer that method of communication. And this also applies to signature preferences. I know we're living in a time that it's not the easiest to get a wet signature or an actual pen to paper signature. Now would be the time to maybe start implementing e-signature preferences. And this is also the time in the webinar that I mentioned all of our recommendations should run through your broker-dealer or your compliance officer. Anything we say is second to what your compliance officer, broker-dealer, SEC, FINRA, all your regulatory authorities are going to say. So what we say is just recommendations that we see across many offices. And here's a picture of what that looks like in Redtail, having a primary home phone number or email address, and then a preferred method of contact. So primary is, if I'm going to call him, which phone number am I going to call? And then preferred is, if I'm going to contact him, how does he prefer to be contacted? And that's via email, because that's bolded here.
Absolutely.
Back to the game board we go. Where would we like to go? RMDs 400 from Bethany. Thank you. RMDs 400. Really going for the big points early on. I love it.
All right. Here, see if you've been keeping up with the news lately. What is the name of the COVID-19 stimulus bill that waived required minimum distribution rules for individual retirement accounts and 401ks for 2020? Is it the A, the Secure Act, B, the Bye Bye RMDs Act, the C, CARES Act, or D, the Shares Back Act? So let's go ahead and give you about 3 more seconds to decide. We'll closing in 3, 2, 1. If you answered C, CARES Act, you got that right. That was the stimulus bill. If you got Secure Act, you were close. That was the act that passed at the beginning of the year that pushed the required minimum distributed age to 72. But the one that actually gives a little recess to RMDs for the year 2020 is going to be the CARES Act. Okay, and so how do we go about tracking RMDs inside Redtail CRM for years that aren't 2020, because we all get to basically take the year off for 2020. But for next year and years to come, we're going to want to use the Contacts by RMD report. This is a handy report that's going to allow me to see who in my database is eligible for RMDs, whether they meet the age of 72 or older and they have tax qualified accounts. And then once we have that report, we can take that data and add user-defined fields to track whether or not they've taken RMDs for that year, how much they've taken, and how much has yet to be withdrawn.
And there's multiple levels that you can use to report on this. We work with offices all the time, right, Austin? And some offices say, I just want to know who has to take an RMD. I just want to know who of those that have to take it have taken it or have not taken it. Or maybe there's an office that wants to go further into detail and they want to know how much is left, how much has been taken, what frequency they take it on, and all of the little nitty-gritty details within that RMD. And that's where user-defined fields can be like an accordion, really. You can have one user-defined field for RMD taken yes or no, or you can have a set of 7 RMDs or 7 user-defined fields for your RMDs. One is user-defined field that says RMD applicable, yes or no, RMD amount left, or however you'd like to name them. And then you have all of those fields that indicate all of what you'd like to be able to report on or see for everyone in your office that has to take those.
So here's just a couple screenshots of the user-defined field by contact report that lets us see, did this person take an RMD, yes or no? And we can use that filter option to see who needs to take an RMD versus who still needs to. You can also do this on the account level as well. So like Haley said, accordion, you really want to get granular, you can use the accounts by user defined field report to see which accounts still need to take required minimum distributions. But we're going to keep it simple today. We're just going to create a simple user defined field that says RMD taken. The answers are yes or no. And if they did, we'll change it to yes. And if they didn't, we'll keep it as no.
Back to the game board. Where would we like to go next? Client cleanup 300. Contact cleanup for 300.
All right. So that question for 300 points is, which of the following fields can be cleaned up using bulk actions? Is it A, status, B, servicing advisor, C, marital status, or D, all of the above? About 3 seconds left. Go ahead and enter in your questions. Poll is going to be closing in 3, 2, 1. All right. Let's see how you did. If you answered letter D for all of the above, there's no fooling you. You've used those bulk actions before, and you know that all of these fields can be updated using bulk actions within Redtail CRM. Okay. So why do we bring this to your attention? Well, when it comes to contact cleanup, I get this question a lot on training sessions. They say, Austin, my database is a mess. I don't even know where to begin. Well, let's help you out. So the first thing I always recommend cleaning up is going to be the contact status, okay? That's going to let us know, is this contact worth cleaning up or not? If they're an inactive client or they're deceased, probably not worth cleaning up. However, if they're an active client that I have assets under management with, probably going to be valuable to clean up. So statuses help us trim down that list for these are the contacts that we really need to focus on, and these are the contacts that we don't really need to focus on. And then within that, we can use the category to further rank that. So for my A clients, I want to make sure that I have all of their addresses, all of their phone numbers, all of their email addresses. I want to make sure as much information as possible is at my disposal. But if they're a D client and they really don't have that much money or that much to offer me, I'm probably not going to be wise to spend all of my time trying to gather information from them and spending lots of time updating their contact record. And so that's the second place to start. Start with the category to decide this is the tier in which I'm going to prioritize my cleanup.
I like to say cleanups as easy as 1, 2, 3, just like Austin said. And if anyone's a fan of the show Hoarders, I'm a big fan of the show Hoarders, where they bring in the extreme cleaning expert, right? That same concept with your data. The first thing you're going to do is pull everything out, or maybe pull it into Excel, or determine what needs to be cleaned up. Pick a room in Hoarders, or in this case, we're going to pick a certain status. And if you can't pick a status, then you're going to start by assigning that status. So we get that question all the time, like Austin said, where do I start? You start by defining who those contacts are to your business, so you can prioritize clients first, prospects second, family of clients third, or whatever priority matters to you. And then here's those bulk actions in the CRM. You can do a lot via the bulk actions, and all of these are items that you clean up for many contacts to the same value at one time. So if I know that Jim and Bob and Sue and Frank and Marge or whoever are my clients, I'm going to select them on the search page, and then I can bulk change their status over to clients from not specified. And you're not aiming for perfection with cleanup. There's no such thing as a perfect database. I had an advisor ask me that one time. He said, I've talked to dozens of trainers and everyone on the Redtail support team. Can you help me make my database perfect? And I said, yes, I can. And he said, really? No one's ever said that before. Okay, tell me how. I said, awesome, sell your practice. That's the only way you're ever going to have a perfect database. So we're not striving for perfection here. We're looking for good data management. Remember, 30% of your data is decaying constantly. So you're just keeping a certain level, a standard of cleanup, and cleanup's an ongoing project. There's no such thing as a one-time cleanup and then you're done. All right, we're back at the game board. Where would we like to go? We're looking at some high points here. RMDs for 500. I love these 500 points because they don't have the poll. We get to hear from you guys.
So what we want to know from you is what tools are you currently using to track RMDs? So go ahead and head to the chat options and let's hear some of it. All right. Excel, of course, is a very popular one. Seen some brokerage platforms on there like Fidelity and Orion. Those have some excellent tools. TD Ameritrade, another great tool to use. I'm also seeing some Redtail UDFs. Okay, so listen, if you put the answer of Redtail or UDFs, then you get 500 points. Just kidding. As long as you answer the poll, you can go ahead and give yourself 500 points. That was just for us to see what are some of the different tools that you're using. And so the reason we bring this question to your attention is because regardless of whatever tool that you're using, we have a RMD workflow that we'd like to show you. So this, whatever your process is, whatever tools you're using, just be sure that you're keeping you and your team accountable by using a workflow to make sure that everything that needs to get done gets done. RMDs have some funky deadlines to them. There's the end of the year. There's also that April 1st deadline right there in the middle. So you want to make sure that you have an RMD workflow active, that you're checking periodically throughout the year, again, to make sure nothing falls through the cracks.
Unlike other workflows, the RMD workflow may not be attached to a single contact record. It could be attached to all the contacts in your database that have to take an RMD, or it could be attached to no contacts. We get that question all the time. Can I have a workflow and does it have to be linked to a contact? And no, it does not have to be linked to a contact. The RMD workflow that we've built here is supposed to help you through your database and help you manage on an overall client level. Am I running reports at certain quarters throughout the year to make sure that everyone has met their RMD for the entire year? And I'm utilizing reports to look individually at each of those contacts. So this is in your follow-up PDF. You will get this, and it's a different type of workflow. So that's why we like to spotlight it. It's not tracking a single RMD for a single client, but rather RMDs for all eligible clients. And one more thing I want to say about RMDs in Redtails, we're not getting the amount from your custodian or your broker-dealer. TD Ameritrade and LPL have great reports if you use either of those platforms to tell you how much is due or anything like that. We're trying to replace that Excel spreadsheet that we know you're using. So putting all of the information in Redtail and keeping it all in one place is really what we're going for here. So we're gonna look in the database and see it in action. We're gonna go and open an RMD workflow and just walk you through the first 2 steps to show you what's going on with that workflow. So here's the idea with this one. We're gonna go to the quick add and workflows, and then we're gonna open one of our workflow templates, and we have an RMD workflow. Now here with the workflow name, I'm gonna change the name of this to we're in quarter 2 right now. So I'm gonna name it quarter 2 workflow, or maybe I'm gonna name it 2020 for the year 2020. And then I'm gonna scroll all the way down and create the new workflow. It's gonna open that RMD template that I built in my database and tell me what I'm supposed to do. So I'm supposed to create an RMD taken user-defined field for the new year and run a contacts by RMD report for clients greater than 72. Like Austin said, we're getting a little bit of a break on RMDs this year, but that doesn't mean we should totally forget about them. This is a great year to revamp our RMD process and start using a tool like Redtail to track them better going forward.
Ooh.
All right, that was a tough one. Give yourself 500 points if you participated in the chat. Where would you like to go next?
Actually, Haley, I'm running a little low here. I was wondering if maybe we can go to break for about 10 minutes.
Absolutely. Let's go to break for 10 minutes.
All right. Awesome.
We'll be back in 10 minutes, everybody. All right, we're back. Oh, we are back.
Emily's ready to go. She wants client onboarding 300.
All right, we're going to go back to client onboarding. Oh, wow. Emily, yes, we will do client onboarding 300.
All right. So this one's going to be another poll. We want to hear from you. So go ahead and let us know, how many meetings does your office have in their onboarding process? So usually the onboarding process takes anywhere from like 2 weeks up to as high as 3 months on average. So how many meetings does that entail for you? I'm sure maybe you're a master at it. You get it done in one meeting, or maybe you got to spread it out over a couple. So let's see how the Redtail users spread out their onboarding meetings. We'll give you 3 seconds to answer. We have 3, 2, 1. All right, let's take a look at the results. So for the most part, you guys are pretty efficient with 1 to 2 meetings. We do have some offices and everything at the 3 to 4 to 5, 6, even as high as 7 or more meetings. So the onboarding meetings, they usually are a series. And so how can you manage that better using Redtail CRM? So the recommendation that we have for you is to clearly define out what each meeting entails. So if I have a 3-meeting process, I'm going to give them clearly defined titles, and they're going to have strict agendas for what we're going to accomplish in that. That's going to make us have the most efficient use of our time and be sure that everything that needs to get done does get done.
So when you go into, it's just like everything we talk about, right, Austin? We're planning, we're setting a purpose to different fields within the CRM. And with our meetings, we're defining a purpose to each of those meetings. I once had a client I worked with that had 8 meetings in the onboarding process, and they all had a different name, and they all had a different agenda, and they all had a different purpose to try and figure out if that was going to be a great relationship between that client and the advisor. And as long as you've got everything clear in your flow, then you can easily put that into activity templates. So your activity templates can guide you through standardizing how to schedule and track those different types of appointments on the calendar. So here we have an activity template for onboarding meeting, and the type would be appointment. The category would potentially be the name of your onboarding meeting. So we see typical names like discovery, proposal, engagement. Those are really common ways to name them. We wanted to leave it kind of general in our example here, but the categories where you're going to put maybe meeting 1, meeting 2, meeting 3, or meeting 1 out of 7 if you'd like to keep track of how many there are total. Or the category could be discovery, engagement, or so on and so forth. And then in the description is a great place to put that agenda. So as you start to use workflows and activities together, the agenda doesn't have to be in the workflow. A better place for it's actually in the activity, since that's what you're probably going to go to pull open that Zoom link or that address where you're going to meet that person. Right now, probably that Zoom link to go ahead and pull up the meeting information, and you'll see the agenda and the purpose for that meeting. And a lot of clients are starting to share their agendas with their clients. A lot of our clients are starting to share their agenda with their clients as well. So you both know going into the meeting what that purpose is. Where would you guys like to go next? And don't forget to keep track of your scores. I keep forgetting to say that. Prospecting 100. I saw 3 in a row for prospecting 100. So we're going to go over there.
Love this question. So the question we want to know is, according to the Prosperous Advisor Coaching blog, what is the difference between prospecting and marketing? Is it A, prospecting is active, B, prospecting is passive, C, marketing is active, D, marketing is passive, or a combination of both A and D? So let's go ahead and give you 3 more seconds to put your answer in there. So the poll will be closing in 3, 2, 1. Poll is closed. Let's see how you did. All right, if you said D and, if you said option E for A and D, you got the correct answer. Go ahead and give yourself 100 points. Okay, and so the recommendation that stems off of this is having a, what's the name of it? client lifecycle
There we go.
delineated by your statuses and your categories. So that way I can pull up a contact record, look at that status, look at that category, and I know exactly where that person is in the sales process. So you might diagram something out like this, or use a style guide to be able to guide you on when you should be using which statuses and which categories. So in this example, every client starts off as a lead warm, and then we would maybe move them into the prospect status if we qualify that lead. So we say, okay, is this person going to be a fit for our business? Yes, they are. Okay, they go to prospect hot, or maybe they're not quite a fit for our business right now. Maybe they go to lead cold, or maybe they're just not ever going to be a fit for us. Maybe we have a specific niche market we target, we put them into lead lost. So we still retain the information, but we know we're not going to represent. And then we basically just move it on from there, right? We make our proposal. Do they go pending, cold, or lost? And then eventually the end goal is to get them to that client status. We're ranking them with either a high value AAA or a lower tier single A or AA.
It really lends itself to using the CRM to the best of the ability, or maximizing the use of the CRM, right? We think of CRM as, oh, that's my client relationship management system, but it's really not. It's your contact relationship management system. That the CRM is meant to hold so much more than your clients. It's meant to hold your leads, your prospects. Leads that were lost even can stay in your database because at one point you had a relationship with them through your business. So keep track of it through a life cycle like this. Map out maybe what your life cycle looks like. It might not look exactly like this. And like Austin said, the goal is to go from lead warm, prospect hot, prospect pending, and then a client A, AA, or AAA. But then you also want your clients that are A level to move to the AA, and your AAs to move to the AAA, or whichever end is the top for you. You want your clients to be progressing through the categories as well. And then not related in this section is where they eventually leave. That's what we talked about yesterday, into inactive or deceased. So map out what are the different stages in your client life cycle.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't think about it this way, but if you're truly engaged in prospecting and marketing, your database should be more filled with prospects and leads than it should be with active clients. Because if you are a growing business, you want to make sure that you're continually filling in that sales pipeline. And so when you go to that contacts page and take a look at your contacts by status, you should be able to see that, okay, I'm doing something right because I got a high amount of prospects and leads in my database, working them through the process and building my business.
This is a snapshot from the Today page and then contacts across the top. And I call it the most colorful page in Redtail because it's got all the pie graphs and bar charts to show you what your database makeup is. It's not a makeup of your clients, it's your database makeup. And it's really important to see what that ratio is and if it reflects what you think it is for your database. Somebody said client cleanup any, and then there were 2 client cleanups 400 right after. So we're going to go to client cleanup 400. I appreciate that there's a need for cleanup here. We need to clean.
Yes, I love it. Okay, so this one, a little bit of a different question. Take your best guess. What is the maximum size of an Excel spreadsheet? Is there a limit at all? Is there a clearly defined, when you go to your columns and you're adding columns across the top or adding rows going down, can you actually run out of space on an Excel spreadsheet? So go ahead, take your best stab at it. Maybe you know this offhand because you're an Excel wizard, but let's go ahead and give you about 3 more seconds to take your best guess. I'm gonna close the poll in 3, 2, 1. All right, so I think you'd be surprised to know that there actually is a limit, and that limit is 1,048,576 rows by 16,384 columns. So you can run out of a spreadsheet space, but thankfully there's not that many columns in Redtail, so you should be just fine to use an Excel spreadsheet to clean up your database, which brings us to our recommendation, which is when it comes to cleaning up data, those not included with bulk actions or that can be easily clicked through in the contact records, a fast way to get your data cleaned up is to actually use custom exports to be able to send that data file to Microsoft Excel. Once it's there, we can go ahead and change or add new pieces of information to the columns, and then send that information back to Redtail by emailing support@Redtail Technology for a secure link to upload it through. Now, I will hedge one warning. There is going to be a field included that's called the client ID number. Just be sure not to touch that one. That's the most important field in that spreadsheet. It helps us match the information back up to the contact record. So keep that first column in place, but the rest of it is yours to be able to go through and add fields or change fields as you see fit. So it's a fast way to clean up rather than having to click through the system. It lays it all out in the spreadsheet and you can get cleanup done very quickly.
I don't think that one was a double, so we don't get double if we got that one correct. Where would you like to go next? Client loyalty, 400.
All right, big points. All right, you got a 50% shot on this one. Marketing is only for new business and not existing clients. Marketing is only for new businesses and not existing clients. Oh, wow. All right, I don't think we're stumping too many people on this one. So I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Let's see how you did. 100% of you. Oh my goodness, you guys all got it right. Go ahead and mark yourself down for 400 points. That's right, it's false, right? We don't just market to new business. We want to be engaged in cross-selling. Even for our existing clients, we want to be able to make sure that we are setting a cadence and that we are helping them understand what our services are and what's available to them. And that, of course, is going to increase the value that they bring to our practice. And so one application that we have for you to doing that is just to be sure that you're setting up your clients on a communication cadence so that you're advertising those services. So that might be something like social media engagement, a newsletter, maybe sending them a letter on their client since anniversary. You know, if you're maybe a financial advisor who gives investment advice, but maybe during tax season, you might also want to help that person with their tax season. Maybe like a January, February newsletter that includes information about your tax services is a great way to get the word out there and then increase the value that you have for your individual clients.
So here we have a sample communication cadence, or you might have heard it called like an editorial calendar that you can put together to kind of zoom out from the day-to-day and look at what is my overall strategy. That's what we're doing here today, right? A strategic challenge. And we want to map out what kind of communications do each of my current clients receive and when do they receive them? So what's the frequency of my newsletters, reviews, birthday acknowledgements, social media engagements? What am I planning on doing? What's the method? Is it physical? Is it digital? Am I meeting clients where they're at? What's my overall strategy for all of my clients and prospects? And this is one that we want to highlight a mail merge on. So this is a sample mail merge where it can pull in your family name, address, and talk to the client and their spouse, potentially if they have a spouse, and ask them maybe for referrals. So you're targeting a specific correspondence to referrals. We hear from clients all the time that a client may be rated a category of B, a B client, but if they refer another client, all of a sudden they're an A client. So giving your clients the opportunity to refer prospects or business to you could move their rank up with your business, and that's a great incentive.
Absolutely. Hey, if you want to steal this idea from us, if you go to our Redtail help desk and type in sample mail merge templates into the search icon, you can use this template here, already built out with the mail merge fields, to begin building your own referral request process and send that out to your clients.
Bethany was quick
Right.
typing there. So we're going to go to client loyalty 500. We're going to stay on that loyalty topic.
Right.
Oh, here's our double.
Ooh, make it a double. Cheers, Haley.
Cheers.
All right.
Double
All right, everybody.
points.
For 1,000 points, here's what we want to know from you. The question is what annual events or holidays does your office engage with clients on? So is there a special holiday, day of the week, maybe, I don't know, Cinco de Mayo was yesterday. Did you reach out to your clients to wish them a happy Cinco de Mayo? Let's hear some ideas in the chat option. So seeing a lot of Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is definitely a very safe one. You know, it's not usually tied to any kind of like specific religious or like political event. So that's usually a safe one to be able to reach out to. New Year's is also another great one to be able to see. Just wishing somebody a new year. If you're tracking clients with like their dependents using the family system in Redtail, Mother's Day is coming up this weekend. So if you're looking for a new one to do, you can go search through your database for maybe some mothers using the advanced search options to maybe recognize some of the mothers. And then again, Father's Day next month, to recognize some of the fathers in your database.
So this is all about encouraging, you know, creativity or just that engagement. People want to connect, and we see that more than ever in our strictly digital communications recently, right? So what are the ways that you're connecting? I saw a lot of in-person events. Consider adding some virtual events now. With my alumni association, we're having weekly happy hours. So you can just join if you're part of the alum community and just talk and network with whoever is on the call. And then I threw in Talk Like a Pirate Day. I heard that from an office a while back.
So again, here's just a couple of ideas that you can show some appreciation to your clients and build that loyalty on certain events. We also are posting a list, an even more extended list inside the PDF handout. So be sure to check that out for even more ideas on events and holidays where you can show appreciation and build more client loyalty.
And then here's an example in the CRM of just using a report to see when you've contacted clients in certain ways. So yesterday morning in session 1, Curtis and Catherine talked about categories and utilizing your categories within the database to track different types of notes and activities in the system. There's a report that I love to highlight. It's the no contact report. And usually when we train on it, it's to find who has not had a review, but consider using it to find who has not had a personal touch or a social media interaction or a special kind of maybe a newsletter, or see who has not had any other interactions, because you don't want to only talk to your clients when you're required to. They'll feel that, you'll feel that, they're going to want other communications just besides from when you have to talk to them.
All right, next question, let's do it. Where are we going next, everybody?
Events. I see a lot of events. So let's go to client events. It looks like 400.
All right, so here is a question for you. What is the best way to follow up with a client after an event? Is it a handwritten thank you card, videos, pictures, recap of the event via email, or is it sharing photos on social media? Or if you like all three of the options and you think that all three of them should be included, you can choose option D for all of the above. So I'll give you 3 seconds to put in your answer. 3, 2, 1. Overwhelming majority is all of the above, and that's right. All of these are great ideas for following up with your client after an event. And I like to say we should follow up with clients whether or not they attended the event or not. So even if they didn't, a good way to maybe show them a little bit of FOMO and maybe encourage them to come to your next event is to share the event that they might have been invited to but weren't able to attend. And so they're more likely to attend the next one. And then of course, for your existing clients, it just further builds client loyalty and becomes part of the service model that you provide when you do things like send them handwritten cards or share photos from the events with them.
I'm going to go off script for one quick second. If you noticed that D was bolded, thank you for letting us know. And you can add an extra 200 points to your score. That was my bad. It was bolded, so I kind of gave you the answer there. So if you notice that, extra 200 points. And what Austin's talking about here equates to seminar statuses in the system, right? So Curtis and Catherine talked about it earlier, or if you've used our seminar tool or want to start using our seminar tool for tracking events, make your seminar statuses as specific as your contact statuses. So you can send those targeted communications. And for anyone that doesn't know, I didn't know what FOMO was. It's the feeling of missing out. So FOMO, feeling of missing out. You want your clients to feel like they missed out when they didn't go to your event. So send them an email or some type of event summary with some pictures and how much fun you all had, right? You want to make sure that your clients want to engage with you, and encouraging that is a great way to send those targeted correspondences. And here we're just showing how to pull out a sign-in sheet from the seminar or a check-in list to make sure that everyone that attended can check in on paper. And Redtail has some easy reports for you to pull up that pull out all their information.
Nice PDF, easily printable, that you can go ahead and check off who's coming to your event. So that way you can record that back into your CRM once you get back from the event.
Prospecting 300 was typed before we were even here, so I think I'm going to honor that. We're going to go to prospecting 300 for Heidi.
All right. So I wonder how Heidi's been prospecting during this pandemic. But let's talk about what this pandemic's done for financial advisors in bringing on new clients. So according to the Nationwide Retirement Institute and a recent April 2020 survey, how many Americans have engaged a financial advisor for the first time as a result of the corona pandemic? Is it 1 in 4, 1 in 8, 1 in 10, or 1 in 15? So I'll give you 3 seconds to think about it and throw your answer in there. We'll close the poll in 3, 2, 1. Ooh, we got split results here. A little bit over the map. If you said 1 in 4, that's the correct answer. Give yourself 300 points. I was really surprised by this. People are needing your services more than ever. So if you're not engaging in prospecting during these unusual times, you really need to be, because I like to quote Robert Sophia. He's the CEO of Snappy Kraken, an integration partner of ours. And he says that advisors are roofers after a hurricane when it comes to market volatility. Is people are uncertain about their finances, and they are longing so hard for your advice and your wisdom that you can give them. And so I would say more than ever, use this as an opportunity, not to slow down like the rest of the world, but to vamp up your marketing and your prospecting, because listen, people want your services.
Translating that to the CRM, you're going to make your statuses mean a lot. So just reinforcing everything we've said, a lead needs to mean the same thing for everyone it applies to in the database. That just means a name and contact info. We've had no interaction with that person whatsoever. And then a prospect means we've had some type of interaction with them. And then an active client is they have a service with us. So we really want to have those defined and very clear so that everyone in the office is on the same page. And something else that's really important is when you're using the opportunities tool, you're not opening an opportunity for every name and phone number, right? We're opening opportunities only for qualified prospects.
Yes. So we've already determined that they're a fit for our business and that they're likely going to be wanting our services. So now we can start tracking that prospecting or even the onboarding process using that opportunity section. Another point I wanted to just really briefly highlight was, you know what? We're getting towards the end of the time. Let's just go back to the board and let's answer some questions, because I know we got lots more to cover.
Client events, 500. Thank you, Sandra.
All right, so this one we want to hear from you. Open up that chat feature and let's hear, what does your office do to prepare for events and make them special? So you got to post an idea to score those 500 points. Let's hear some strategies that you guys have for preparing for events or making that event even more special.
Go big or go home. I love that. Was that Roberto? Go big or go home.
Yes. I'm seeing a lot of food.
Cookies.
Food and goodie bags. Like, that would get me to go to an event for sure.
Goodie bags?
I love the opportunity for a little free food.
I know, I'm free on all of these dates and times, by the way, just, you know.
All right.
So here's some
So
fun
here's some ideas
things.
we have for you. You could pre-print name tags. You can put together raffle prizes or giveaways. Guest speakers are always a fun way to do it. Also, making sure that you're confirming and calling with your attendees. Make sure as a preparation that you're getting good attendance at your events.
It doesn't have to be something huge or expensive. The really value is all in the details, right? Did you think about what somebody would experience walking in or walking up? I go to I used to go to social security seminars and tax seminars all the time. It's my kind of research to see what's working for you guys, and I've really missed that in this pandemic. But something that I notice is when I go to an event and all of those things have been thought through. Did we think about how people were going to get from the parking lot to this particular door? Did they know the way into the building? Were they greeted? Did they have someone directing them? Think about the little things as well as the big things. So while a guest speaker is great, the win is in the details, and pre-printing name tags or something that's so small could create so much value.
So with all of those finer details, you're going to want to make yourself a client event workflow to make sure that we're not missing anything and paying attention to those things. So here's an example of a client event workflow that you might use. Again, it's going to be available to the PDF, so you can go ahead and build out your process for client events.
And then here's an example in the CRM. It's going to guide you. I always equate event planning to wedding planning because it's something that we all kind of have experienced in one way or another. We've either known someone that's planned a wedding or been stressed about planning a wedding. So we all kind of know that it's on a timeline, and all events exist on that timeline, but we're not event planners. I didn't choose that. And we might not have chosen to be event planners. So how do we structure all of those details and remember all of the things that we want to do and keep our events consistent so people can depend on the experience they're going to have? And that's that workflow. And we've got two event workflows that are in that PDF for you. So you can use which one works for you or kind of mix and match between the two.
All right, we're filling up that game board. Not too many left. Let's see where we're going next.
Clean up for 500. We're going to go to another 500. We want all those points near the end, right? Everyone's trying to boost their score.
All right, so here's what we want to know from you. Head to the chat box. Let us know what's your office doing to keep your contact data up to date. Talked about that 30% decline. We've got some messy databases out there, I'm sure, but is there anybody doing something right? Is there a strategy you'd like to share that you use that you find effective for keeping your data clean? So I'm seeing confirming information when scheduling appointments is an awesome idea. Sending out forms, good. Running reports, good. Yeah, Haley, do we have any ideas for them here?
Yeah, we do. We have workflows, confirming information on a review appointment, which I saw a lot of that. Well, they're already in here. Let's go ahead and confirm everything while they're here. Online form fillers. I didn't see any online form fillers on there. But this is where we're really going to highlight, this is what we call a style guide or a Redtail style guide. This is in your follow-up PDF, so you don't have to screenshot it or anything. But it's tracking the different statuses and categories, what they mean to your business, and keeping everyone on the same page. So it's a great way to set a standard for if we have someone who has a status of active client and a category of warm, what are the fields that we want for that person, and what do we verify when they come in for a review? So it's really taking that client life cycle and then breaking it down by stage in the life cycle and saying, in this stage, they're a status, they're a category, this is what we're doing with them as far as communication goes, and as far as just tracking them overall and being able to search on who that person is to the business.
And it all starts by heading to the managed database list and making sure that you have clearly defined statuses and categories. All right, let's go to the next one. Got about 5 minutes left. Where do you guys want to go next?
I think we have to go to client onboarding 500. Emily's very excited about onboarding 500.
Last big money on the board. Here we go. So again, chat option for 500 points. how long does it typically take for a prospect to become a client? So think about that process, that entire onboarding process, from the time that that person says, yes, I want to be your client, to all the way when that final account rollover shows up and is available for you to begin managing. So how long does that take?
I love it. I saw a month from Ashley and then less than an hour from Sylvia. So our
Wow.
timelines vary widely.
Uh-huh. I'm seeing a lot of but somewhere between like the 1 and 3 month range, which is pretty typical. Usually somewhere between about 6 weeks and 3 months is the standard, especially with the ACH process and bringing in client accounts if you're doing any of that. So the onboarding process can take a little bit longer. So why do we bring this to your attention? Whatever you're doing, make it automatic, right? So let's get that process started as soon as possible, because if not, we're wasting valuable time, and we don't want that process to take us any much longer than it has to. So what we like to do is start with our onboarding workflow, and as soon as that process says, hey, let me be your client, let's get that workflow started, so that way we're working through the process and getting that person onboarded as quickly as we can. So Hayden's going to show it off to us. How do we go about adding that automation in our database?
All right, so to do this, we have to change a status on a prospect to an active client. So I didn't tell you, Austin, but I got a voicemail from Jimmy earlier, and we've been working on Jimmy for a while, right? We've been talking to him. Yeah. He's ready. He wants to come on board. So we're going to pull up Jimmy's contact record here, and we're going to go over to his contact details, and he's decided he wants to become a client. So we're going to change his status to active client, update the details, and then I'm just going to refresh the page because I want to show off to everybody that went ahead and linked. It would have linked our active workflow. It would have brought up our workflow tasks. So let's go to our name and manage our account. And we're going to go to our automation templates and see what happened here. So on our onboarding workflow automation template, when the status is changed, link a client onboarding workflow when the status is changed to active client.
Yep, I think that's the right automation, or maybe it's not the right workflow template. Maybe just consider changing that.
Change the workflow.
Workflow template existing. Yeah, that one.
Do this one. All right, we're going to go back to Jimmy. Sorry, guys. Or James. I should call him James. All right, we're going to edit. Change him back to a prospect. Update. And then edit and change him back to an active client. And edit and update. I always test out automations when you first set them up too. So it looks like we didn't do our double checking, which is really what we were trying to teach you. This was a learning lesson, and that we did this on purpose.
Absolutely. We just wanted to make sure you guys are paying attention. We know it's late in the day, so we got to keep you on your toes somehow, right?
So now we have all of our onboarding workflow tasks. So just like before, when we showed an automation and a workflow, you only have to remember one thing. And we get this question all the time with onboarding. There's multiple things going on. We have our meetings with that person for signatures, discovery, for plan proposal, et cetera, but then our client services team has to hit the ground running at the same time as well. So there are two separate workflows, one for onboarding, an onboarding checklist, and one to guide us through each meeting as the meetings are happening. I think that was our last question, because we do want to be respectful of your time. You've hung out with us for a very long time today, and we appreciate that. So we're going to go ahead and add up your scores. Go ahead and add up your scores for us. And how did you do? Let us know in the chat. What was your score? If you've got anything more than 6,000, that's something to brag about. Really, I think any score is something to brag about, because I got a lot of these questions wrong when we played this game. Awesome.
Yeah, thousands. Wow, some high scores here for sure. If you want to, you can use your bragging rights and share with us on social. Use the hashtag strategy challenge and the hashtag Redtail Summer Series. Go ahead and tag us. at Redtail CRM, and let us know how you did. Let us know your score and boast to the world about how strategic you are in using your CRM platform.
I'm going to be really cheesy, and we really appreciate you all joining us on this webinar and playing this game with us. I know it's something different, and we're so glad that you tried something different with us today. We wanted to make learning fun. I know technology training is always the thing we all look forward to. It is what Austin and I look forward to, but that's just our day job. We love doing this. So you did win bragging rights, and then you won that solid PDF of all of that information that we've collected from working with thousands of offices just like yours.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This concludes the Redtail Summer Series. Hey, tell your friends. We're going to be doing this 4 more times. So if there's someone in your office or another advisor that you think that can benefit from joining the Redtail Summer Series, be sure to have them sign up for the upcoming webinars, or the recording will be available again at the end of May for you to be able to go back and recap or share with the rest of the team what you learned as part of the summer series. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.